All right. Well, hello and welcome everyone to this live stream speaker spotlight for the 2023 annual meeting. We're really excited to have a few of our speakers here with us to talk about what they're going to be presenting, what they're going to be teaching at this upcoming annual meeting in Greenville, South Carolina. And so I'd love to have you have the chance of kind of getting to know them a little bit and getting to know the topics that they're going to be speaking about in Greenville, South Carolina, coming up just a little over a month away. So I'm going to start and just kind of go around and let you all introduce yourselves a little bit and talk for a few minutes about the topic that you're going to be speaking about, and then maybe we can have some conversation after that. So I'll start with Dr. Williams. Do you want to go ahead and just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you're going to be talking about?
Well, my name is Brad Williams. I am a general dentist out of Skytook, Oklahoma, which is a little town north of Tulsa. And I have been a part of the AOS, a member of the AOS since 1983. And I started teaching in a kind of an associate way for the AOS in 2009 and started teaching as the senior clinical instructor around 2015. And I've been in practice for 41 years, and it's been a really fast 41 years. And I have been doing orthodontics in my general practice for 40 years. And I've been asked to talk to speak at the meeting about orthodontics in general practice. And I was told that basically my target audience would be people who aren't necessarily doing any orthodontics at all, and that are maybe curious or interested in orthodontics. And so I'm there as kind of a teaser to let people know just what can happen in your general practice whenever you introduce orthodontics. And that's a subject that I'm really comfortable with, because I always get excited whenever I start talking about orthodontics and GP practice, because orthodontics, I started orthodontics with the AOS, through the AOS in my general practice a year after I opened the doors. And I hung my shingle out in 82 and started doing comprehensive orthodontics in my general practice the very next year, thanks to the AOS. And orthodontics just typically is not, it's just not taught to general practice dentists, and it's not taught to pediatric dentists. And we've always been kind of traditionally discouraged from doing it. And because of that, it's kind of absent from our diagnosis and our treatment planning. When you add orthodontics to your practice, it just changes. It changes everything. And that's what I really want to talk about at this meeting. I'm just always ready to embrace an opportunity to talk about how orthodontics changed every aspect of my practice, every treatment plan, every patient that I encounter. Orthodontics is always in my brain, and I'm always thinking about how the orthodontics is going to influence that case and that patient, that treatment plan. So I'm really excited about getting that opportunity to speak to a lot of people that are maybe thinking about adding ortho to the practice, and how the AOS can help them get that done, get it launched in their practice. I plan to talk about not just doing comprehensive orthodontics and maybe phase 1 intervention type orthodontic cases, but also talk about how orthodontics influences all my treatment plans, and how it has added so much flavor to my practice. It's just made it so much fun for me, because I do everything in my general practice. endo and perio and restorative and crown and bridge and dentures, implants, all of that stuff. But whenever you add orthodontics into the mix, it gives you so many more options, so many more ways to treatment plan a case. And that's what I really want to get into, is just how much more robust it makes your practice. It changed orthodontics, just basically changed the entire trajectory of my career, my practice, and my career. And I'm anxious to share that with everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm very excited because one thing we hear a lot, or we get a lot, is people are interested or they're curious about orthodontics, but they're just not quite sure if they're ready to go for it. And so this is, I think, is going to be a great opportunity for people. It's going to be great. All right, next I'm gonna Lisa, would you like to introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're going to be speaking about?
Sure thing. Lisa Brownlee. I'm coming to you from Columbia, South Carolina. And I am the founder and president of Leaders Imago, which is my consulting business that I just celebrated my 10th anniversary back in May. Imago is the last stage of metamorphosis of a butterfly, right? So you think about what happens inside of the cocoon, all of the hard work of change and transformation. That imago is when the butterfly emerges in its fully mature form. And so what the Leaders Imago is about is working with managers and leaders and with teams through the hard work of change and transformation in order to help them be more effective leaders, more cohesive teams. And I get to work with teams across the country on things like this. So I'm excited to be with you all in Greenville next month, just up the road from me. My portion of the program is on Saturday morning. And the first hour is designed, I think, for both tracks to be able to participate. And we're going to be looking at what it takes to be a cohesive team. And I think about the folks who are going to be a part of this conference and how, when you're in the throes of a full docket, back-to-back patients, you really are head down working to take care of the people who are in your care. And how much time do your teams really have to work on being a team? And so this will be an opportunity to give you all a chance, folks participating, a chance to spend a little bit of time together and get to know each other more as people, as teammates, working toward a common goal. And so in that first hour team building session, in addition to learning about, what does it take to be really cohesive, we'll give the teammates a chance to work together and kind of scratch the surface into that realm and have a couple of activities where they get to know each other in a fun and non-threatening way, just deeper levels of understanding of one another. And ultimately leave with some ideas about other things that they can continue to do to grow that relationship between one another that makes teams so effective and organizations so effective. And then the second chunk that I get to do is part of the business track, and it's the team communication gym. And what we're going to do there is give everyone a chance to uncover their personality styles and their preferences at work. And we're going to be talking about how those styles and preferences can impact team dynamics. They'll get a chance to learn about, what are my teammates' styles and preferences? And what does that really look like whenever we engage in activities together? And so we'll do some fun things there to see how that plays, how those styles and preferences play themselves out. But really the value, I think, of that particular session is going to be, if I understand you better and I know a little bit about what makes you tick and your personality versus my personality, I can choose to flex how I'm going to engage you in a conversation or work through something. And in essence, kind of get ahead of, how when we engage with somebody and it's like our personality traits are clashing and bumping heads, and it makes that interaction difficult, maybe unnecessarily difficult. what we'll be discovering is ways that we can kind of grease the skids so that we can tamp down how those personality traits might get in the way, in order to have an effective conversation and get to the heart of whatever that interaction is about. And ultimately, it's like we leave the conversation saying, hey, that was good, instead of, phew, I'm glad that's over. And bonus, the skills we're going to be talking about can also translate to relationships outside of work as well. So that's just a little bit about what we're going to get into with the team building sessions.
Yeah, that's exciting. It's one of those things where, you get so caught up in the day to day, and there's things that are just sort of routine, and you kind of
Oh, yeah.
forget who you're working with and how important it is to have those kind of relationships.
Right
So,
on.
yeah. Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. I'm very much looking forward to your sessions, and I think the teams will be as well. So that's
Thanks.
great. All right. So next up, I have Michelle Kelderman, and I'm really excited about your session. I'd love to hear a little bit more from you about what you have planned for the event.
Sure. Yeah. My name is Mel Kelderman. I dental in Pella, Iowa. I have been working at Dom Dental for almost 14 years. I started actually in the front desk, so I know a little bit more about the practice coming from the front desk, which is really helpful. I feel like grown throughout the practice. It's to kind of have that background as well. I started as a assistant trainee status. Dr. Depp was kind of growing his ortho side of the practice, and I had shown some interest in wanting to learn more about being an assistant. So he felt like I would be really well suited with learning the orthodontics. So I've been an ortho assistant for a little over 10 years. And the more I learn, it just becomes more and more fascinating. I love being able to other assistants as they're coming in. So this is a great opportunity for me to share with others kind of learned over the last 10 years. So I'm really excited to be able to do that in the class. I'm sessions. The first morning session, we're just going to talk about, different aspects of how you can incorporate orthodontics into a general practice. I can't tell you how many times we've messed around with the schedule, changed it this way, just to tweak everything so that we can, make things run more efficiently. Because that is, I feel like, the number one thing for when you're trying to incorporate all of this stuff into a new practice, into a general practice, is like, how are we going to see all of these patients in addition to what we're. So hopefully I'll be able to share some of those things with the other assistants. We are going to talk about scheduling, charting, and then in the afternoon is going to be a big hands-on session. So I'm going to talk a lot about like supplies and instruments that we have that should be on everybody's standard for supplies. Then we're going to dive into, working on dentiforms with braces on. So we're going to do a lot of ligature ties, O-rings. We're going to place separs. We're also going to cover how to place open coil springs, power chains, rotation wedges. So a lot of hands-on stuff that will be really beneficial, I think, for it's geared towards more of the assistant don't really know how to do any of those things yet in a practice, kind of like all new stuff. So then noon session is going to be focused on more like taking photographs. I'm a really big stickler for the photographs. So I want to be able to teach people a lot of tips and tricks on taking really nice orthodontic photos. So Jill, that's probably what we'll be talking about in South Carolina.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's like I said, I don't know that we've done the hands-on before, and so this is something that I'm really looking forward to, and I think it's going to be a great value for the team members who are going to be in attendance. So that's excellent. Really looking forward to that. Awesome. Okay, so I have Dr. Vertaler as next on my list here. So would you be able to just introduce yourself a little bit and talk about the session that you're going to be speaking about?
Absolutely, I will, Nate. I probably talked too loud, so if it's too loud, I apologize. First off, I was going to say I'm going to probably skip my lecture to go to the other 4 people ahead of me because it sounds way more interesting. I'm kidding. My name is Brian Biertaler. I practice in Maryville, Missouri. In kind of a group practice, if you will, was by myself for about 12 years. Came up with the genius idea about merging with another gentleman to buy some technology, and I was doing ortho at the time. I was lucky enough to have Dr. Williams when he wasn't big, bad, important Dr. Williams. He was just an associate instructor. But anyway, I had always done the ortho for my friend's practice in town, and he's a diplomat of the ICOI, and he'd always done my implants, so it kind of naturally worked. Got into ortho a long time ago with a different organization. Before I was at the AOS, it was actually the International IAO. Anyway, long story short, been a member for a long time. Nate had conned me into previously. We kind of switched topics up a little bit, which I'm excited about. I was going to talk about, quit being stupid, mistakes you make and stop making them, because I am really good at making mistakes. What we decided to do was, I have been fortunate enough, immediate past president of the AOS, been on the board for a long time. And I say I was fortunate enough to be kind of at the helm, if you will, during some interesting times. We get a lot of questions from members about, what's kind of going on, because there's been a lot of changes at the AOS, for sure. A lot of those changes involve quite a bit of detail and background. So Nate and I came up with, I thought it was a perfect opportunity since at the annual meeting to, it's a short, kind of a 1-hour hit lecture. I talk fast, I might cuss a little bit, but basically to give everybody kind of, I think our members need to know what is going on, not only what happened with the changes we made, and just to kind of give you a little tidbits. The AOS was not in a great place 2 years ago. By meaning not in a great place, I mean taking on water, probably about as bad as you can imagine. Now, from 2 years ago to our present day, I can't even begin to tell you how excited I am where we are. The changes, the difficult changes the board has had to make, from a financial aspect to just a really change of game plan aspect. Unfortunately, we were making some decisions based on how things were, 30 years ago, and things have gotten competitive, internet, multiple, remote type stuff going on. And it was a very, very, very interesting time for the AOS, to say the least, the last few years. And we thought it'd be perfect to kind of let members know, hey, this was kind of going on. And also too, to talk about the future vision. Like, I'm telling you right now, I don't bullshit. I pretty much say what's in my head. And I'm telling you, in the near future, I have zero doubt who is going to be at the top of orthodontic education. And call me a liar in 5 years if I'm wrong, but I'm not going to be wrong. Just because of what separates the AOS from other organizations is our instructors, and our level of give a crap that we have for our students. We just haven't done a very good job of crossing T's, dotting I's. But we have we've made some decisions. I'm sure some people have heard about an event center. What's that? Why is that cool? What's your guys's, what's the board's vision? Where are we going to be? What are we doing? So that's what I'm going to talk about. Kind of talk about a little bit of history and a little bit of future. And my number one goal would be everyone to walk out and go, even if, man, if you walk out and you're a tenth as fired up as I am, because if you look at the history of orthos, some of our past instructors, you know, Dr. Wyatt, Carapeza, these guys were really game changers nationally for getting GPs into ortho. So to be able, as you know, a board member, past president, to be a part of something, to maybe lift something to a whole new level, it's been a lot of time in my life the last 2 years, but I have zero doubt that it's going to be worth it in the long run. So that's kind of what I'm going to talk about, and try not to cuss. You know, try to be as PC as I can possibly be. So anyway, that's kind of my gist of what I'm talking about.
We appreciate that. The not cussing part, but
Thank you.
all
I
right.
didn't cuss, did I?
No, well, you know, I give you one or two, and then we're good. All right.
Take a win. Take a win, Nate. Take a win when you can take it.
Yep.
I apologize if I did, if that offended anybody, by the way. It's my mom's fault. She was always yelling at his kids.
Yep.
Anyway.
I hear you. All right. So Dr. Cannon is going to be is trying to join us, and I believe we are having a little bit of technical difficulties. I'm going to go to Gary Page and let him sort of talk a little bit about himself, his background, and what he's going to be speaking about at the annual meeting.
Well, thank you, Nate. How is my voice coming through? Can you all hear me okay?
Great. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm Gary Page. I'm actually a doctor as well, but I'm the wrong kind of doctor. I was a professor for the University of Maine for many years, but you don't want to be touching your teeth. I'm a doctor of business administration. So I have been a practicing CPA for many, many years, as well as taught or done accounting and business management consulting for a very long time. I have the enviable task of doing a session on late Saturday afternoon, I believe, maybe the last one, on the exciting topics of financial statements and embezzlement. And don't laugh. I think they are exciting. So I take a little different approach to this. Why should I care about financial statements? I assume most of you that will be there or at the conference are in this for a career. You intend to be in this profession for quite a long time, and eventually you may not want to do it anymore. You will reach that point, and at that point, we hope that you will be what we might call financially independent. Now, there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can run your practice profitably enough and hopefully save enough money so that you have enough money to not worry about. Now, maybe you'll love doing dental and orthodontic work, and you can keep doing that, but it won't be because you have to do it for the money. The other way, and I think the two really go together, is you can build a practice that other people want to buy. And yes, people do purchase dental and orthodontic practices. You can go online. It happens all the time. So what makes for a practice that people want to buy? Well, my wife is a healthcare professional, not a dentist, and we actually built the practice and we sold it. And I can tell you that the most important thing is going to be your profitability and your volume. And they're going to want to see good records. And so that's a really good reason for being very interested in your financials, because your practice represents what probably for most of you is going to be your biggest asset. There's other reasons too. If you're in the U.S., and I assume most of the attendees will be U.S. practicing dentists, and I'm assuming it's the same in other countries. You got to prepare for the taxes in the spring, and you want to know how you're doing. So we'll talk a lot about financial statements. One of the complaints we get about accountants all the time is, you told me how I did last year, Your financial statement says I lost money. Well, I kind of knew I lost money, so tell me something I don't know. What can you give me to help me next year? We'll talk about that as well. What are some things, maybe besides what you see on normal financial statements? What are some things that you could watch that would actually make your business go bad? You may not see in the actual financial statements. So the other topic can be kind of a sad one, and that is embezzlement. It is far more frequent than it ought to be, and it's particularly in healthcare practices. Typically, the doctor or doctors aren't real excited about finances. That's not what their calling in life is. Their calling in life is to help patients to be well, or to have their teeth look good, and that's as it should be. So finances can almost be kind of a bother, and so it's really feels really good when you get that person or persons working for you that you just trust them. They can just handle everything, and you find yourself handing more and more business over to them, more and more of the financial stuff, until sometimes you see them handling everything, and it just kind of feels good because that person is so essential. And I've seen one case where the employee actually had debit cards that could go to the ATM and get cash when they needed it. Just some incredible levels of trust. And I like to trust people. I really do. I don't like to be an untrusting person. But what can you do to minimize the chance of embezzlement taking place without being that grumpy, looking over the shoulder, untrusting person? What sorts of steps can you take that don't take a lot of time? And there are things that you could do. I will tell you a quick story. My wife had I already told you, my wife had a healthcare practice. Now, I'm pretty good at this stuff. I have studied and been involved in business management for a long time. And I had a fairly big part in managing her practice for a while. And would you believe, with all the stuff that we implemented, the bad news is we actually got embezzled a little bit. But the good news was it wasn't very much. I think we lost $125. Not bad. But we had systems in place. So I said, oh, that's funny. Our cash was coming out short. Exactly. Every day, $25. Well, I don't know. A lot of folks aren't too smart. So what did we do? And we counted every night. And so we just posted a note and said, hey, we just noticed the cash is $25 short every night. We don't know where it's going, but it needs to stop. And it did. But we had a number of things in place. But I know doctors that they don't put anything in place. They don't have anything. And there's some sad stories of hundreds of thousands of dollars that have been lost over time. I know of one doctor who eventually he had the person helping him. He put a lot of stuff on credit cards, and his trusted person would pay the credit cards. And over the years, she discovered, he never looks at these cards. She even signed the checks. So she starts throwing her own credit cards in there, and he didn't notice for years. She was paying his credit cards and hers, in addition to collecting salary. And so I don't know what eventually prompted him to catch it. I don't recognize that card. And this has been going on for years and years. And so this is much more common than it should be. But if you have certain things in place, and if you're aware of what sorts of things would lend themselves to embezzlement, and there are certain things that kind of need to be in place, you can be more aware of that without taking a great deal of your time. So those are a couple of the areas we'll cover. And your profitability is going to be huge when you are ready to do something else or ready to move on with your practice. So if you have an early flight on Saturday, you need to see if you can get it changed.
Absolutely.
Now, I live almost within walking distance. I don't live very far away, so I'm living in Greenville.
That's great.
So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. And we worked together a few years back, so I got to know you through business, and it just so happens that we're reconnecting this way. So I'm excited for that.
Great to hear from you.
I've got a quick question, Nate.
Yep.
Were you the guy that he caught stealing $125? Is that how this goes down?
You heard how he just sort of left it kind of out there. He didn't really.
It felt weird.
No
It felt
names.
weird. Maybe
Yeah.
I was just-
No, it wasn't, just for the record, it wasn't Nate.
Yeah.
But I mean, a lot of the times the way that money is embezzled, you look at it and say, that's really dumb. How would they get away with that? But they do, because it's not unusual for the doctors to just, it's total trust.
Mhm.
Like, I don't worry about my wife has total access. She could steal my money and it'll be all right. But we get that kind of level of trust. And I say, just be involved at a few key points. And if they know you're involved, that in itself is gonna make the opportunity less likely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm very much looking forward to it, and I know a lot of our doctors are as well, and teams. And it's an important topic. It's one that people don't think about every day, but it's definitely important. I'm going to see, Dr. Cannon, can you hear us? Is your audio coming through at all?
Good nothing.
Don't hear. Yeah. So, which is too bad, because Dr. Cannon has been on since the beginning of the call, and just having some technical difficulties. He spoke for us last year, and it was a phenomenal session. We got a lot of comments about it, just talking about a lot of different things in terms of emerging study, emerging medicine around oral health and how that kind of affects the health of your entire body. But maybe we can come back and do another session once we get some of these technical difficulties worked out. But in any case, I really appreciate all of you being here. And yes, I'm very excited for the annual meeting in Greenville. I really hope that people see this and get excited as well. It's going to be, I believe, a great time. I understand that fall colors are a big thing there if you're kind of thinking about what to do outdoors, and that's a nice time of year to be there. So maybe you all from the area can vouch for that. I'm not sure. But all right, well, I appreciate it, and thanks everyone for joining the live stream. And please reach out if you have any questions about the event or how to get signed up. We would love to help you out. Thanks, everybody.